responsible for platform evangelism. So that includes business analysts and platform architects that support the various platforms. So thank you so much for coming today to our Women in Experian, our monthly Women's Wednesday event. It's great to see this great turnout, and of course men in the audience, so thank you so much for coming. Hopefully you're all here because you're very interested in APIs and not just here to win a Google Home device. But I would like to proudly announce and introduce Chris Hood. He's part of Apogee and works very closely and partners with our team here at Experian. He's going to be telling you all about APIs, how it's in our daily lives, and then if you can have your mobile phones or laptops available, there's going to be an interactive demo. And the goal is at the end of this session, you'll have learned more about APIs. Don't think they're as scary or just you have to be a techie to understand it. And then at the end, we'll raffle off our Google Home. Okay, so thank you.
So let's actually make sure this thing is off. Okay, Google. Okay, Google.
Google.
Okay, Google. Okay, Google, stop. Technology, gotta love it. Okay. So yes, as we were saying, get your phones out because this is actually going to be interactive. First time ever you'll be sitting at a meeting where you actually get to play with your phone.
Yeah.
So let's actually make sure everything else is working. Gotta love. We're also broadcasting this on WebEx, so there's a couple of small technical challenges with doing that as well. You can go all day with this word.
Yeah. You need to turn off a little bit if you can. This display here.
There's an extra seat over here.
Debbie, we lose the WebEx on the presentation on WebEx. They can't see it now.
You can't click through.
It's the repeating.
It'll be on the video, right?
No, I'm focusing on the speaker, so the people on the WebEx are not going to see his presentation.
Worked great when we tried it yesterday.
It was working 2 minutes ago. So,
I guess while he's getting set up, does anyone have any
okay.
questions or
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. Just like that. No questions.
I tried to help you.
Not ask anything. Okay, so here we go. I'll skip over the agenda. So a little bit about me. I actually come from a media and entertainment space. I've got a good 30 years in business, technology, marketing. A lot of my background is actually working with very large studios like Fox Broadcasting, Disney, Sony, also in the video game industry. So a lot of interactive media, which is why we're here today, is to talk about interactive content. I have worked also for about 5 years or so with Apogee. I was actually a customer of Apogee, brought Apogee in at Fox to help us kind of manage all of the activities around like voting for American Idol and some of the other interactive elements of TV. I am a member of a couple of organizations. When I'm not doing that, I'm teaching. I teach online courses in technology. And I do writing and this fun stuff, public speaking. So a lot of fun, excitement. Okay, so get out your phones if you have them. Make sure you're not on your internal Wi-Fi. Just use your regular cell phone service. Log into the address down here below, pollev.com/apogee. You should all get in there. It may ask you for your name. You can go ahead and put in your name. And now it's going to ask you a question. Are you guys ready? Right? You should all see on your device once you get to that address. And as you start to answer, are you ready? Or if you're not, we should start to see some responses going on here. Hopefully everybody's ready and no one thinks that this is just for lunch. No, somebody's not ready. Is it working?
Yeah.
Everybody's good? In there? Okay. Okay, let's test that out. Let's go to the next question here. You should have on your phone now another question. What does API stand for? Okay, we've got a couple of A's and B's. No D's? No one thinks it's an appetite pizza interface? Okay. Okay, good. We got about 91% in the room that thinks it's application programming interface. Well, how about this? How many of you feel it is as if you've used an API today? Have you used an API today? A couple people no, a couple people yes. 89% yes. Okay, well, let's figure that out together, okay? It is application programming interface, and for those of you who are wondering, it is really about connecting applications together, right? And these are applications we use everywhere, whether it's on your smartphone, whether it's inside of your office, at your desk. Programmers use APIs to connect programs together, so we could have two different programs. They need to communicate in some way. That's why we call it an application programming interface. We're actually interfacing multiple programs together to make them work. So that's what application programming interface, or APIs, really is. But what we want to do today is actually talk a little bit more about what we think they may be. So here's another quick question. Should be on your screen now. What words come to mind right now, today, when you think of APIs? Is it working? Is it on your phone?
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead, just type in some words and hit submit. You can hit as many as you want. Apple. Okay. Now there's a bunch. Scary. Scary, right in the middle. That's good. Banking, web services, complicated, interactive, connection. Yeah, okay. You can enter multiple words, whatever works, whatever comes to mind. Technical, banking, robots. These are great words. Excellent. So these are the words that you're coming up with today, right? What your mindset is based on application programming interface, right? And none of these are really wrong other than maybe scary, whoever wrote that. Pull their ticket out. But all of these are correct. You know, it is all about connecting things together. And it's not just about connecting applications together anymore. And so what we're going to do is walk through a couple of more of those options. So what really is an API? Well, today, the world has changed. It's no longer changing. We can't use that argument anymore. The world has already changed, and it's about us being able to kind of keep up with that change. APIs are a way of streamlining processes. They're about growing your business, growing Experian, and making life easier. All of those apply in the world of APIs today. And your customers, your stakeholders, business units, people you interact with, are demanding that you are using APIs in some way to grow your business and make life easier. Imagine if you could cut off 2 hours of your time each day doing your daily task, because we could create some type of technology to help you do that. That's what APIs do. Okay, so the growth of APIs. Let's just look at APIs in general over the past, several years or so. Since 2006, that's this particular report. This report is on a website called programmableweb.com. This this is the growth of their APIs over the last, say, 10 years or so. It's outstanding if you really think about how many APIs are really in the world. And if we really want to dive into an example of this, these are all the organizations, this isn't all of them, this is a small list of companies that use APIs on a daily basis. So you're not alone. You see Experian right there in the middle and the top. But you'll recognize a lot of companies that you interact with on a regular basis on this list. How many people go to Starbucks? Only half of you? I don't believe it. Some of you, I should have put this in here. So every time you go to Starbucks, if you use your phone to, make a payment or to make your order, that's an API. Starbucks is an Apogee customer. We've built the APIs that they're, based on. So a lot of APIs out there in the world, right? And what they're all doing is they're actually creating digital experiences. That's what we're focusing on. And digital experiences are critical for your business, right? We look at some of these stats like if a user doesn't get their website loaded in like 10 seconds, they're gone. They're not even sticking around. They're going to go to a competitor if it's too slow. 50% of your customers will leave if it doesn't load in 10 seconds. I'm sure everyone in this room knows the feeling of looking at your phone and it's not loading and you get frustrated and you say, well, I'll just go somewhere else, right? 65% of users will go to a competitor if the application doesn't work. So imagine I'm going to Experian.com and I'm trying to use an application and it's not working. I'm out if it's not working, right? That frustration is real. So real that 90% of consumers have had at least one deal-breaking moment. So pretty much 90% of everyone in this room has gotten to the point of frustration that you just turned off the application, closed the phone, and never went back, right? That's what we're trying to look at. APIs help us to solve some of these issues by creating positive digital experiences, right? So why do APIs matter? Well, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Improve processes, grow your business, make life easier. These are real case scenarios of what APIs are used for. From an process improvement perspective, that goes back to everything we were talking about earlier. Connecting applications, right? If I could go and do my exact same job in less time and sit down at my desk and save myself, an hour or two, that's a process improvement. By being able to connect programs together to get the information quicker, to enter data faster into other systems, that's technology, right? That's where we improve processes using APIs. Growing your business by developing APIs as products, as actually productizing and monetizing APIs, not as technology connectors, but actually as assets, as something that you can resell. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And then making life easier. We just talked about Starbucks, but you've all picked up your phone to try to do something and find out something like, okay, Google, what is the current soccer score?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Of course you don't. But you get the point. Shoot it. It's 1-0 still? Okay.
It's a better
But that's making my life easier when it responds properly, right? Okay, so let's look at a different way. Instead of calling these application programming interfaces, why not call them application process interfaces, right? We're trying to improve processes. We use APIs to allow us to adapt to the shifting market. Technology changes the market. We have to be able to adapt with that. How do we do that? APIs allow us to quickly and efficiently adapt to whatever the market is, right? So a new technology comes out, API should be able to interface with that API or that technology quickly. That allows us to adapt. APIs help us to standardize our communication. So again, if I'm trying to communicate between HR and marketing and they don't know how to talk to each other, well, hopefully some type of API will help standardize that communication so that so that the marketing and the HR groups can actually communicate more effectively. APIs streamline and automate internal operations. So I said again, imagine if you could sit down and not have to do something for 2 hours because the system was automated to do it. Wouldn't that be great? You have 2 free hours to do more work. APIs can help you with regulatory compliance or governance. You know, how many times do you have to go and, oh, I have to get approval for this? What if you didn't have to get approval for something because an API was in place to actually approve it automatically for you? That's happening. That's real world today. And of course, we can add security around that to make that communication more reliable, more secure, prevent data from leaking out, whatever the case might be, right? So again, we can develop APIs around processes, application process interface. Good way to look at that. It also helps us avoid disruption. So all of these companies have helped disrupt their particular industry, like Netflix. Netflix is actually one of the largest movie distributors in the world, yet they have no movie theaters or video distribution facilities. It's all online. We're going to talk a little bit more about Netflix here in a moment. Also, there's a common misperception that Netflix put Blockbuster out of business. How many people used to go to Blockbuster? Yeah? Okay. So Blockbuster actually had the belief that people loved to come back into Blockbuster and pay late fees. That was their belief. People love to come in and pay late fees and pick up another video while they're at it. And we all did that. It wasn't really the technology that changed Netflix, right, or Blockbuster. It was Blockbuster's unwillingness to actually change. They were disrupted by the technology, but they refused to keep up. So one of the messages I want to make sure that we leave you with is don't allow your competitors to disrupt you, or don't, be discouraged, don't be scary. APIs are not scary. You want to be able to, change and evolve with the trends of technology. Uber, right? Uber, largest taxi company, they own no taxis. But in reality, they are a taxi company, right? They've disrupted that industry with technology, with APIs, with an app. And there's other competitors within Uber space, right? Lyft. Apple, largest software vendor, doesn't write any apps. Pretty much every app on your iPhone, I could say the same for Samsung, but pretty much every app on your phone was written by a third party, and they're selling it through the Apple Store. Apple's not writing this stuff, right? But they have the APIs in place that allow you to write it to do the interaction that you need within your phone. Amazon, one of the most valuable retailers in the world, right? They've disrupted the retail industry. We see malls going out of business. Technology has helped to catapult that. Airbnb, largest accommodation provider, owns no retail, owns no real estate, owns no hotels. They're doing it all with APIs and technology. So let's look at Netflix real quick. Got your phones back out? What's the favorite thing to watch on Netflix right now? And I'm sure some of you don't have Netflix, so there is an option for I don't have Netflix. Stranger Things. Okay. The Crown, yeah. Lost in Space, good. Still Stranger Things is up there. 18% of you don't have Netflix. 17, 16, 15. Seems like Stranger Things is winning. It's a good show. So Netflix is interesting. They, at one point in time, and they still do, this is not the end of the world conversation. It's just a different way to look at it. They have a lot of APIs. They use those APIs to broker data, right? System resilience, security, scaling their systems. A lot of these things we've talked about that we use APIs for. What's interesting though about this is that 99.8% of their API traffic is actually internal. That's an internal API, as opposed to the 0.2% of that API traffic which is public, which is consumable by outside entities. Why this is interesting is because basically they built their entire business on APIs. It's the entire foundation of their business. It's APIs. And to make this statement even more obvious is the calculation. Out of 11 years of public API traffic, that's only 0.2%. The other 99.8% is 1 day's worth of their internal API traffic. That demonstrates again how they built a business based on process and technology that is solely wrapped around the concept of API first for their business. And I often get a lot of people say, well, but we're not a technology business. We're not a digital business. Domino's Pizza has the same philosophy, API first. You can go into their corporate offices and they have a big sign that says, we are not a pizza company. We are a technology company. Now, why do you think that is? They realize that by creating technologies, they can sell more pizzas. Domino's is the #1 pizza provider in the world. And they've done that because they can do it through APIs. Their business is, we don't do anything now unless there is some type of technology around it. So I can order pizza on Google Home, I can order Domino's on Twitter, I can order Domino's on Slack. There's a lot of ways that I can order Domino's. So when you're sitting in a business meeting on Slack and you're getting hungry, just quickly type, order me a pizza. Let's look at it another way. How about application product interface? Another way to look at the P. APIs are products in our world. They are consumable products. They are not just technical interfaces. Even though it's called application programming interface, we do productize our APIs now. And by productizing them, we can monetize them, we can bundle different resources together, we can actually package them, make money off of them, and ultimately our goal is to delight our customers, and whoever those customers may be. Those may be actually API consumers, people who are using the APIs to develop new technologies, or the end users who are going to ultimately be using the data from those APIs. And we're going to give you a couple more examples of these as we progress today, but the concept again is, how do I productize my APIs into anything else that I might productize in a business? You would have a product lifecycle, you would have product managers, all managing your APIs. To give you another insight into kind of like what we saw with Netflix, but also what we see with other organizations, half of Salesforce, so if you use Salesforce, you're familiar with Salesforce, half of Salesforce's revenue is generated solely from APIs. From eBay's perspective, 60% of their revenue is APIs. And Expedia, 90% of their revenue is generated solely from APIs. Here's an example. Walgreens is one of our customers, and Walgreens decided one day that they were going to create some APIs. And they started off with actually a photo prints API. And the concept was very simple for them. We're going to build this product called Photo Prints API, and we're going to distribute it. And what they soon realized was that people would be taking pictures on their phones, We all take pictures on our phones, and they wanted prints. So the API basically allowed users to send their photos to the local Walgreens, get them printed out. I could go into Walgreens, pick up my photos, and be happy. But what they started to realize was as people were coming into Walgreens to pick up their photos that they had printed, they were realizing, oh, I need some bread. Or, oh, I need a greeting card. Oh, I could pick up a couple of other things while I'm here. The per capita for the people coming in just from this API increased drastically. So then they started to think about other APIs that they could build and productize. So they built things around their rewards programs. They did it for their prescriptions and scheduling to see a doctor. So they had all these APIs now that they were creating, and the same thing happened. Different people would come in, not just for photos, but for the pharmacy. They were buying things while they were there as well. So then they started to distribute the APIs publicly to other third-party applications. And there's just a small list over here on the left, right, your right. And you'll see like WebMD. So now I can log into WebMD, I can say, what's my problem? I'm really sick, and we all get paranoid. And at the same time, we can then send the prescription or whatever straight to Walgreens, and that's all being facilitated through an API. It's making our life easier, but at the same time, it's productized from Walgreens' perspective. They get more people into the door, people are buying, and they're generating revenue directly related to those APIs. Cool story. How about another way to look at this? Application people interface. The reality is that we all are using our phones now, and we're all interacting with each other. And we interact with each other on various ways, whether that's through social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We go out to eat, we take pictures of our food, we share it with our friends. We check in with our friends. We check for, whatever we want to do. We have this kind of example. You want to go on a vacation. I book my cruise, I book all my excursions, I book my air flights. I'm doing that all digitally. They're all being interacted with each other. I want to check the weather to where I'm traveling to make sure it's okay. I'm posting to my friends on social media that it's fun. I'm checking out the restaurants on Yelp, making sure that I can eat something good, right? All of this is being driven by APIs. Every single one of these actions that you are doing is an API somewhere, okay? And they're all interacting with each other, which goes back to application programming and interface. So if I am on Twitter posting a photo or a message based on my air travel at the airport that I'm in, all of those are communicating together in some way. We have this philosophy called outside-in design approach. The outside-in approach changes the way most organizations look at APIs. If we look back at the words we thought of initially, right, around APIs, it was about technology and connecting businesses and things like that. A lot of times we take this inside-out approach, which is, hey, I've got this great data, and I want to share this data we have with people, so let's create an API for it. But really, when we think about application people interface, the question is, do they want it? You as a person wants to interact with data the way you want to interact with it. So we start with the people, the consumers, the users first, outside in. And we ask ourselves, what does the user want? And that's based on data and analytics and asking these questions. We don't just assume that they want something. We figure out what they want, and then we build APIs to support what those users want, what those people want. Those interfaces, those connections between us, right? So let's bring this all together now. Let's look at it from a perspective that you may be more familiar with. and hopefully this all works. Okay, Google, please check my Experian credit report.
Let me check your report. There have been no changes to your Experian credit report since July 7th. Your current Experian FICO score is 797.
Pretty good. Okay, Google, please scan the dark web for my information.
Scanning now. Experian has completed the scan. Your email has been found on 3 lists since 2006. Your phone number and social security number was not found in the scan. Although these issues may not be critical, please log into your Experian account for more details.
Okay. Okay, Google, please lock my credit report.
Your Experian credit report is now locked.
So now, pick up your phones again. What words come to mind now that you've looked at APIs differently? Awesome. Nice. Personable. Love it. Innovative. Interactive. Useful. Easy. Not scary. Good. Game changer. Fun, amazing, exciting. Game changer is a good one. Useful. Yeah. Empowering. I love it. Somebody still put scary in here. I do know who you are. So, yes, I think what you can start to see is that, again, APIs can be used to help innovate, to help create new products, to help grow your business, right? To bring us together in new and unique ways. All of these are correct. Okay, Google, what's our next question?
Okay, Chris, let me change the slide and see. How many of you now love APIs?
Well, the good thing is there's only one answer. So you don't get an option on this one. You can't say pizza or something in here. Yeah, APIs are pretty spectacular when you really think about it. They're not scary. They're not always technical. And they are meant to really help improve our lives, whether those lives are at work, personal, right? Building business connections, growing our business. All of that can happen with APIs. So hopefully, at least this small, quick presentation gives you some new ways of looking at the technology so that it isn't scary. And maybe you can go back to your desk and think of different ways that you might use APIs in your daily lives and your work. And ultimately, hopefully, you can find ways that you can ask the team and we can build new APIs to really help grow the business. That's really what we're here for. Okay? Any questions? Give you a little time for some questions.
Yeah.
Yes?
So is it possible for an individual to write their own APIs to help with their own productivity on their desktop or whatever it is they're interacting with?
So I would say in general, yes, but there is programming language that is happening behind that, right? So it's not as easy as just saying, hey, I've got this great idea and I want to, type into, a spreadsheet or something and create it. But the great thing is that we've got teams that are readily available to help you obtain those goals. Right? So if you have those ideas, then definitely share them. But typically, there's some programming language that is wrapped behind it. There's some technology. The goal, though, is to be able to think that way, is to say, hey, I think I could put an API here to really help. And then, jot down with the team and figure it out.
So on one of your slides, it mentions security and safety of the data, but hypothetically, could someone hack into multiple APIs, or even a single API if they really wanted to? Is there some
Hypothetically, people can hack into anything.
Sure.
But
The chances.
right. So the great thing about Apogee as a product, right, as Apogee as a tool that allows us to build APIs, is we've got a lot of security features wrapped around it. So it reduces the risk of people being able to hack into that data drastically. That doesn't mean to say that it can't happen, right? But at a high level, we've got more than enough security systems in place to prevent it from happening.
So going off of Janet's question, I think one of the things that maybe if you could explain it would help clarify, what's the difference between writing a standalone productivity app that is self-contained versus writing a new productivity app that interfaces with different APIs? I think that's kind of, what's the difference between those two scenarios?
Sure, I mean, anytime we're writing software, whether that's a productivity application or some type of tool on our desktop to be able to achieve something, there's time involved with writing that application. How we write that, I think, is the key. And so I could write that as a standalone application that helps me with my productivity that doesn't have any APIs in it. Or I could potentially write that application, that productivity application, faster because I've got APIs that allow me to communicate the data back and forth between whatever systems I'm interacting with. More so, with APIs, there's a reuse side of it. So let's say I write a productivity app that needs to gather this type of data, whatever that data is. For one person, it's great, but imagine if I can reuse that data for multiple other departments and multiple other productivity applications and have that readily available so they don't have to spend weeks to develop a productivity app. They can do it in a couple of days because all of that data is already available. That's what we're really talking about. Make sense?
Yep.
Yes?
I've actually heard the term machine learning used a lot in our group, and I'm just wondering how that works with API, or does it work with API at all?
So machine learning is basically kind of artificial intelligence, right? It's a machine learns from its users, from its errors, whatever the case might be. So the simplest version is if I say what's 2 plus 2 and the machine says 3 and you say no, it's 4, then in theory it's learned, and the next time you ask what's 2 plus 2, it's going to say 4, right? That's the learning machine language. Obviously it's a lot more complex than math. Where do APIs fit into that? So they are typically two different technologies, but it is possible that you could be using APIs that facilitate data into that machine learning, right? So if I want to, an example of this will tie in the security question with machine learning example. If I see a lot of people trying to hack into Experian, I could have a machine learning system set up that says, oh, I'm seeing trends from these IP addresses or trends from this region. I think this is now not secure, and I can create, security blocks in real time based on what it's seeing and learning, right? So there's a couple of different ways, but it's all the data that's coming into that, but the actual process of learning, that could be any number of techniques, tools, technologies.
Sure, thank you.
Yes?
I was in the grocery store the other day, and one of the, this I know sounds like a stupid story, but anyway, one of the
No.
patrons was putting in her card, and it kept saying denied. She goes, no. I know there's money in there. Let me try again. Denied. She said, so she got on the phone. She called her bank. She had been shopping at Home Depot, which she never shops at Home Depot, and she shopped because they're remodeling their home. They blocked. Is that an API doing this kind of work, blocking that? Right.
Yeah, and actually that's a combination of the machine learning and APIs, right? Because what it's doing is all of the credit cards, like American Express, et cetera, they're actually looking at transaction and data and trends and saying, you've never shopped at Home Depot before, and all of a sudden you spent $1,000 at Home Depot, what's going on here? We might think this is a flag, we raise the flag, the system communicates back to the app, right? That's all happening in real time now through a combination of tools, but yeah, APIs are behind that as well.
What are, just to help bring it to life for me a little bit more, what are some APIs that we use here every day at Experian, either at our own desktops or between business units to make
So I can
products
talk a
possible?
little bit about that. If you go to developer.experian.com, that's actually our developer portal here at Experian, and we have multiple business units that are writing APIs that are either public or private. So if you go on there, that's our North America one, and you'll see a list of APIs from BIS, CIS, EDQ, those types of, and automotive as well too. So you can get a list there, but if you have questions, you can also reach out to my team. But one of the things I want to, and he touched on this, is hopefully you guys have learned a lot about APIs today and how they're used in your daily lives. But I challenge you to think, how can we embed more APIs into your daily work life? So if you're in product or even HR or finance, like these are things that can improve the way we work. So if you have ideas or things, or even in DA or additional products, you think, hey, we could API, create these into APIs and sell this to be revenue generating. We need to be more innovative and think of these things. So that's why we're doing these types of workshops, to get you guys thinking and facilitate those thoughts. But yeah, there's definitely a lot around Experian already, and more than just North America. We have a UK developer portal, and then in Brazil as well, and then we're going into APAC and other regions.
Yes.
What are they typically coded in? Is there a predominant language or anything goes?
So APIs as a default is typically in a format called JSON, but we typically will program inside of Apogee, either in JavaScript or just Java. So there's a couple different ways that you can build those. Yeah.
So my question's over here. So with a lot of the tools we use, like Jira and Confluence across the different teams, those tools come with APIs built in. However, we shut them all off internally for security reasons or other concerns. Is there a process that we can go through to get either app-by-app exceptions to enable the API interfaces for those? Or how do we tie into the systems that offer these APIs with great functionality that we just don't have access to now?
Yep, so you can talk to your security officer if you find that something is blocked, but it ties into Monica's team, which is the enterprise architecture team. So they have an architecture review board, so if there's some kind of exception that has to be made, it can be reviewed. But like you said, there are a lot of APIs out there, but it has to go to proper review so that security-wise, we're not just opening it up for someone to come in and hack into Experian data through our applications.
And just to touch a little bit upon that one, so we were testing the integration between the WebEx teams and the Confluence and Jira tools, right? Because we know that works really nicely, and then also with like ServiceNow, so we can get that immediate view of where's my incident and did it change. So we're testing that out, and because we know it would drastically improve the productivity.
So if we have an idea about something like an API and how it could be helpful, like someone came up to me the other day and had sort of an idea about wouldn't it be great if we had an API that did XYZ. And I said, ooh, why don't we get a team together and do it as a hackathon event, right? But is there like a quicker approach that we can use? Do we go to Monica? Do we go to developer.experian? Like, where do we go with that request?
Yeah, so come to the API COE. Any of us, either me or the architects on our team, we can help facilitate those conversations. So if it has something to do with an Experian product, we'll help point you in the right direction, talk to your product teams and say, okay, this is how you get started on Apogee. Here's maybe some things you can do to actually write and test on our sandbox environment. If there's other ideas, we can brainstorm with you and then see how we bring it to life.
Okay, great, thanks.
Excellent. One or two more questions before we run out of time? Do our drawing? Okay.
Alright.
Well then, let's.
You got one?
Yes.
If you're using like an ETL tool or even sending data back and forth in email spreadsheets, those would be like the first step to get started with an API.
Talk to the team. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about that, right? Just start to map out the data and what you need and what systems they're coming from to start to see if there's an easier way to facilitate that data. But typically it would start with a conversation and we could sit down and kind of map it out.
Yeah, there's different options. Obviously, we look if there's a tool that exists that does that already, and if not, then we can look at that. Yeah. All right.
Sure. Okay. You ready? That doesn't happen. Okay.